welcome to the Passenger Seat Podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca, and today I'm on my way home from work, my first day back after quite a busy car-related weekend, all things considered. So looking forward to a nice evening at home after I've recorded this, because I've been pretty busy all weekend with car things. My quirk of classic car ownership for you today is how we always manage to have such interesting conversations with each other when we do manage to get to events. Not always about cars, but we usually manage to find quite a bit of common ground regardless, which is always nice. And I've certainly had that experience when I've been at the two meets recently that I'm going to tell you about. Now, as I've mentioned previously on the podcast, winter in my head was expected to be really quite a quiet season for car related things, so I'm really surprised at how busy we've managed to keep ourselves. And I have to say that is mostly down to car meets. They're a really fantastic thing that I hadn't really seen much of previously, like growing up and things like that. We'd primarily taken our cars to shows, and meets have been kind of a new thing that I've come across really since getting my own car and wanting to do something a little bit more casual on some weekends rather than a full show. And I'm a firm believer now, after being to 3 meets since the beginning of the year, that the meet scene is definitely a saviour of the classic car enthusiast during the winter, because when you haven't got big sunny summery shows, a lovely Sunday or Saturday morning meet with a nice cup of tea is certainly something to be looked forward to and to be cherished until we make it through till the summer. Now, you've already heard about my experience at the Harbour Classic meet earlier in the year, but this one is kind of a tale of two different meets. In the past 2 weeks I've been to 2 very different meets, and I thought I'd tell you about them because they might not be ones that you've heard of, and if you're local they might be ones you're interested in getting involved in. So the first one that I went to, not the weekend just gone but the weekend before, was held on a Saturday at a place called CVS Automotive in Cambridge, well, outside of Cambridge, in one of the little villages there. It's one that my parents had seen kind of advertised when they'd been up and around the area there, and they'd kind of seen that it was being advertised and that there was something on there every month on the first Saturday of the month, and February was the first chance that we'd had really to go along to it since they'd spotted it. So we both headed over, met up kind of somewhere in the middle of the both of us, and then kind of convoyed over, which is one of my favourite things about going to any kind of gathering or meet, is the driving over, hopefully in convoy. So we had a really nice drive over, arrived not really that long after the meet had started. Again, that wonderful thing about meets is being able to kind of come and go as and when you want, and it was primarily the modified and kind of custom stuff that was there. It was a little bit more modern when we arrived, but there did seem to be kind of the opportunity, and they were really appreciative of kind of seeing us there, to the extent that we got invited to park up inside the showroom area rather than kind of outside, and we were kind of parked in and amongst the likes of kind of Aston Martins and Nissan GTRs and things like that. So it was quite a contrast really to see Peggy and my parents' little Austin A40 parked next to kind of relative supercars really. We were joined a little bit later in the day by a Lotus Cortina, but to start with we were very much the eldest cars there, and also the smallest engine sizes there. But that didn't mean that there wasn't quite a good variety, and it did make for some interesting cars to have a look round and walk round. And they were really kind of hospitable. They kind of had free teas and coffees after you paid your £5 entry, and they also had the option of a pizza van there for you to kind of grab some food from if you were interested. So there was definitely lots to be enjoyed as we were walking around. Variety of cars both inside and outside, and it was just really nice to see kind of that mix of modern stuff that is equally important to the drivers as some of the older stuff alongside it. And everyone was talking to each other and kind of admiring each other's cars regardless of kind of age and things like that. So it was a really nice meet. I got some really lovely photos. I've actually got really into trying to take kind of film photography photos of cars, which means that I get lots of kind of fun things to try out on the camera, but then have the anxious wait until the photos have been developed and scanned and emailed over to see kind of how things have turned out. But the photos for that one have come back, and I had a lot of fun taking photos and managed to get some really interesting ones, so I was really pleased with that. And it was such a nice kind of location in the middle of a lot of little villages that kind of when we'd finished walking around and enjoying ourselves there, we were able to really enjoy a nice little drive back through some country lanes, find ourselves a nice little cafe locally for a spot of lunch, and warm up a little bit because it was bitterly cold even if you sheltered in the showroom for a bit. So yeah, really lovely kind of gathering. In terms of my favourite cars at that particular gathering, the Lotus Cortina certainly garnered a lot of worthy attention, but I really also enjoyed a gorgeous little green MX-5 that was parked over a puddle, so it looked with its headlights up like a little frog perched over a pond or something, which was quite funny. There was a gorgeous Bertone X19 that also turned up a little bit later on, that I managed to get some really nice photos of, and I think the owner was quite pleased to see someone who knew what it was and was quite appreciative of it. So those were kind of my favourite cars that were there, but there was some cars with some fantastic, like, interesting paint jobs and everything, that it was such a welcoming environment to kind of whatever car you were enthusiastic about, and everyone was taking some nice photos. I got really lucky that there was some great photographers there who also, as well as my own photos, were taking some really nice pictures of Peggy and Poppy that I've managed to kind of glean off of Instagram for everyone to kind of enjoy as well. So yeah, really nice time at CBS Automotive. I think if I've got another quiet month where I'm desperate for anything, I will certainly be looking into making the effort to go back over there again. And then just yesterday I went to my first of the Stvington Diner meets that are run quite locally. I've been in the group that the gentleman who runs them operates and kind of advertises them in for a little while, but the theme was Morris Miners, thanks to several local Morris Minor branches wanting to make the effort to head there. So we had the Northampton Morris Minor branch, Peterborough Morris Minor branch, and also somebody from Lincolnshire Morris Miners, who were all kind of planning on involving that in either a bit of a drive or meeting there kind of thing. So it seemed like the best opportunity I was going to get to getting Peggy there, the most appropriate at least. So we made the effort, even though I'd had a busy Saturday with a big solo adventure in Peggy for the first time. Made the effort to get up Sunday as well to go over there. The weather wasn't great, it was cold and a little bit wet, but the kind of showing of the Morris Miners really was quite good. Definitely more than I think most people were expecting, but there was also some really interesting other cars there as well. It's a relatively small location in terms of what you can fit there. I think there was maybe 25 cars that were kind of comfortably parked, and any more than that I think it would have lost the element of a meet being able to kind of come and go as you please. But yeah, with the diner on site you have got the kind of option to go and get yourself hot drinks and things like that. But it was a nice gathering, and my favourite car, despite all of the Morris Miners that were absolutely fantastic, was a gorgeous Citroen BX Saint-Tropez, which I managed to talk to the owner about, and they kind of told me what that meant in terms of it being poverty spec in terms of the engine, but having a few kind of special edition features that kind of bumped it up a little bit, like wheel trims and the stickers on the outside and an interior. And you could tell that they were really pleased at how much attention that car was getting, quite worthingly so, because it was an absolutely lovely example to see. And being a kind of fan of up and down videos, up and down vids, and just a lot of Citroens, it was nice to see one at a local meet in the flesh for the first time ever, I think, for me. It's certainly the first time in a long time, if nothing else. So yeah, two really lovely local shows there that were really great, and I stand by this idea that actually we need to make more of our local meets and things like that, because you get to meet local enthusiasts who are part of kind of an invaluable network of support and help, but also it's just nice to be able to get your classics out in the winter and meet up with other classics. Obviously Peggy's out all the time at this time of year regardless, but seeing some others out and about as well was really nice, and it gave me that fix of having some other enthusiasts to talk to about their cars and get to know some more people in the local area. So I hope you've really enjoyed today's short little podcast about some of the local meets. I'd love to know if you know of any other good little local meets, be they near you or perhaps near where I am in Cambridgeshire, because it'd be good for other people to perhaps hear about things that they didn't know they could get their classics out for at this time of year. So if you do share something in the comments on YouTube or via Instagram, then I'll be sure to try and let other people know through kind of Instagram stories or things like that. But yeah, thank you ever so much for listening. Drive safely and happy motoring.